Welcome to Adventures in Life. I'm Earl Beecher, your host. Our guest is Terry Donelson, a professional caricaturist. And so, Terry, what is a caricaturist?
Well, Earl, a caricaturist is an artist who sees things a whole lot differently than a normal human being.
What do you mean than a normal human being?
We never considered ourselves actually normal when it came right down to it. We look at things and we see things as big, exaggerated, minimized, or otherwise distorted. We have a lot of fun doing it.
It sounds like it might be fun. Where are some of the places where you have been distorting things?
Oh, my word. Where do you want to start? Well, Disneyland, of course, comes first to mind. I worked here for about 6 years.
Where were you at Disneyland? Were you, I know they have some people doing it over toward where the Frontierland Railroad is, and they also have some over close to It's a Small, Small World. Where were you?
I worked primarily by the Small World exhibit when it used to be there, and we had a booth and an overhead projector and a big screen behind, and we would draw.
So people could watch you doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
And we could entertain audiences all over the place just by that medium.
And were you just doing people casually as they came by, or?
Yes, they would come up and they would see the screen and they'd say, "Oh, isn't that funny? Let me get one of these done too." And they were relatively cheap, so we just set them up in front and everybody could watch them get mutilized. It was a lot of fun.
Mutilized? Mutilated?
Yeah, mutilated. We have a lot of pet names.
Was there one particular style that they liked the best, like on a skateboard or?
Well, that really varies with the times. A lot of people simply go in for sports. That's a very common thing. Nowadays, if you asked a lot of women what they like to do, they will probably say spend money. And we get a lot of that nowadays.
So you show them shopping?
Mm-hmm. Show them shopping or playing their favorite sport, and of course something dramatic always happens to them. For example, if they're playing soccer, the ball may bounce off their rear end or their head or some other thing like that. And of course, this would be much to the delight of the people that were with them. And of course, it's very entertaining. They like that.
Did you have fun showing people trying to catch a mate?
Yeah, we like that. There's a lot of people, girls and guys, both of which like to grab some really cute hunk, for example.
Maybe you could show us one that shows a girl catching a hunk.
Let me give you a little typical example of that. A hunk, of course, is something you would associate with a college mentality, and of course that's very common among high school students or college-age people.
What else did you do at Disneyland that maybe you could show us?
Well, I did a lot of sketches and one-on-one. I did watercolor portraits out there as well, but the caricature still reigns as the supreme sketch out there. And perhaps a little bit later in the show, maybe I can give you a little demonstration of that. But I think that example would probably serve.
What do people primarily look for in the character? There has to be a likeness. How do you catch a likeness of the individual? What features stand out?
A lot of people ask that question. Sometimes we have people say, do you just look for something big, like a nose, for example?
Yeah, of course.
The classic example, but it's a lot more complex than that. What we normally do is we look for basic shapes. Does that person have a peanut shape? Do they have a square shape, a round?
Are you referring to the face or the body?
Well, actually,
when you say pear shape, I get a little, yes.
All of the above might apply. Initially, we work with the face, of course, and when we break it down, we first look for the basic shape, and then we look for general proportions. Does the mandible region stand out, or does the cranium stand out? And then when we refine that down, then we start looking for individual features, like noses or facial hair or chins or something like that. It works out pretty good.
I see. Do you do this? Well, you've done it at Disneyland. Now, you mentioned you had done it other places as well.
Right.
What were some of those?
Well, I've worked at Knott's Berry Farm, the Queen Mary, Ports of Call, Movie Land Wax Museum, and following that I got into the private party market. That's where we go out to private parties or conventions, trade shows, that type of thing, all over the Southland, and we entertain as a favor to the guest, at the party.
Did you usually have a big screen with you the way you did it? Say that you went to some big convention.
Mm-hmm.
Would they have a big screen for you so you could draw the CEO, for everybody to see there, like you did at Disneyland?
Possibly. On some occasions we would do that. Most of the time we would use what we call a French easel, and we would set the victim up alongside of us, and then we would sketch them right on location so that they could take an actual piece of paper with them and take it home with them to remember the event.
Oh, sure. Sure, that would be fun.
That worked out a little bit better, and gave us an opportunity to interact with the guests too as part of the entertainment.
The Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, Queen Mary, you were in a lot of places, but you mentioned the Movie Land Wax Museum. Did you do many celebrities?
Yes, I did a lot of celebrities.
Were these from the wax figures, or were these from the live people?
Actually, when you say I worked at the Wax Museum, we saw a lot of these figures out there. I didn't sketch a lot of celebrities at that point. The actual celebrities didn't really come until I got into the private party market. At that point, then we would go to certain events, and a certain number of which would have a celebrity out there. And so we would coax them to come over, and we would sketch their faces.
Who were some of the people that you have sketched?
Oh my goodness. Some of them would include George Burns, Shirley Jones.
Wait a minute, let's go back to George. I bet he would be very interesting to sketch.
Very interesting to sketch. A lot of these characters have a lot.
Did you show him surrounded by beautiful young girls? Because I understand he's always surrounded by beautiful young girls.
Good point. We try to keep it under wraps as much as possible. But
did George act like he thought he was God?
Well, he didn't have to act the role he was.
Why did you have that under his caricature?
Well, it came from the movie.
Yeah,
and,
I was wondering if that was used for publicity purposes.
Well, in this case, it was after the fact. But I met George at a party in Santa Monica, and he invited me up to his Hollywood studios, and I presented this sketch that I had worked up for him, and watched him do a commercial, and had a chance to present it, and I was amazed at how easygoing he was and how short he was. But he is basically the same kind of person that you normally would find
on screen, off screen. He's still
right.
George.
Still George. Still George.
You know, I always underrated him when he was with Gracie. I thought that he was sort of blah and she was brilliant. And then looking back at the old things now, once in a while they're on late at night, he sets it up. He is so clever the way he sets it up so that when she delivers that punchline, it's there. But I have to give him credit now, which as a younger person, I didn't realize how good he was. Who else have you sketched?
Well, let's see. I have personally sketched Lionel Richie. Let's see, I mentioned Shirley Jones. I've done Mayor Tom Bradley, Magic Johnson. Let's see, we've done quite a few up there. I guess they tend to escape after a while. Let me think.
Any politicians?
I've done March Fong Yu.
Oh,
and
okay.
you know, once in a while we'll do Dennis Weaver, Ernest Borgnine. There's
Did you show Ernest as a villain?
No, not as a villain.
He was marvelous as a villain.
That's true. But he was a great fellow. I did him when I was working out at Knott's, and he came all the way over from one of the rides over there just to get his picture done, and left his group, especially to come over and get that done. I thought that was very nice of him.
Yes.
Nice guy, nice guy. There's some very nice guys that work in this industry. I've appreciated every one of them.
I imagine most people are kind of happy when they get their picture done. In other words, they're in a good mood, and so you're into a very pleasant situation.
Yeah, that's very true. Most of them are pretty Well, they're in fun spirits, and usually in the evening parties particularly, they're ready to have some fun. I remember when I was working with Barbara Walters, another one. Carol Channing was there. I was working at Barbara's home.
Oh, Carol would be a marvelous caricature.
Yeah. After the teeth, there is nothing else.
I don't know, the eyes and the eyelashes.
The eyes and the eyelashes, yes, got in there. But when we were working with Barbara, there was a lot of focus on the drawing board. I don't think people realize how powerful this stuff is. People come in and they just really want to see what they look like. It's a very ego kind of centered thing, you know. And
yes.
We spent a lot of time visiting with all of their friends and neighbors at the party, and we had a great time exaggerating them. Although you have to be a little careful. The higher up the ladder you go, the less exaggerated you can afford, it seems.
Oh, really?
There's this thing about getting paid. You know what I'm saying?
Did you ever offend anyone?
We hope so, yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great answer.
Usually when we got into the good stuff, as we refer to it, we would normally do it at the end of the party when everybody was loosened up. They'd have their drinks or whatever, and we were able to have a good time with that. Then we could afford to take a few more luxuries, you know, a little more, take a little more, what is the word?
Freedom.
Freedom, yeah. If you will.
Editorial or
editorializing,
yeah,
that's
the
right.
freedom that you use. Tell me, there's another element of this. Now, we've introduced you as a professional caricaturist, but you're also a graphic artist, and what's the difference?
Well, I do both. I do entertainment on one hand and graphics on the other. You still draw, but in entertainment you go out on location and you sketch real live people.
Yes, I want to get into that later in the show. I understand the staff here at the studio said they have a volunteer, and I'm kind of anxious to see. We haven't met the volunteer yet, so this is going to be fun, but we'll bring him in later. Meanwhile,
all right, that's
tell us
fine.
about the graphic artists.
The graphic artists are usually people who work in their studio, and I do a lot of work with that. That gets into your editorial stuff. We would get into designing artwork for publications, or maybe we would do an illustration for a magazine cover, or maybe we would do let's say we would do a company promo. Let's say a president of a company was ready to retire.
Oh, yes.
And they wanted to give him a memento to leave. And so we would sketch him, say, in the middle of a format, and then we would create a series of cartoon satellites surrounding that in order to...
I think you brought something that we could show that would demonstrate that.
Yeah,
Maybe you could point out some of the characters of it if we can get it on camera, please. There it is.
Okay, yeah, we normally would put the character right in the middle of the format, and then his accomplishments would be cartooned in various satellite drawings surrounding the main character. And that way he could take it home with him, and in some cases the employees would sign it so that they could...
Oh, that would make it a real...
make it a very...
memorable occasion for them.
Exactly.
Yes, that would be good. Terry, what are some of the other pictures that you brought to show us?
Well, I brought a few graphic examples. Maybe we could just take a look at those for just a moment. And this is how the cartoon is used in a variety of media. For example, in some cases, we find, well, let's say a company needs a safety poster, for example.
Well, we have something on camera right now. What is it that we're looking at?
Okay, this particular one right now is the king of the swap meets. I designed this for a magazine illustration cover some time ago, and this gentleman was famous for his entrepreneurship, and so he made the front page. And so
you made a king out of him sitting on his swap meet throne. Is that it? What else did you bring?
Okay, yeah, let's see another one here for a moment, and I'll describe that for you. Let's see, we have, I believe we have a safety poster in this somewhere. Yes, there it is. And this particular company was very interested in making the employees consciously aware of safety. And so when you use a cartoon, it goes a long ways to sell the point.
Well, I don't see this guy really getting zapped.
Well, it does tell the story. And the cause and effect relationship, I think, is well established.
Yes. Our guest is Terry Donelson, and Terry promised earlier that he would do a sketch of somebody live on camera, and this is somebody that he's never seen yet.
That's true.
So what you're going to see is going to be really fresh. We'll put his skills to the test. So if we could just pause now, we will bring in our mystery guest.
Okay.
And get it set up with your easel and see what happens.
We'll do it.
Terry, we have a volunteer. He's a production supervisor here at Century Cable. His name is Tom Quevedo.
Tom, glad to meet you.
And these two gentlemen have never met. We'll see what kind of a likeness, Tom, that Terry develops for you.
Okay, Tom, this is your lucky or unlucky day, depending on your point of reference. Have you ever had one of these done before?
No, I haven't.
You'll probably never have another one. Okay, first of all, we are going to lay out the basic properties of his face. Now, everybody is not created equal. Some are created more equal than others. And Tom here, I see, is one of them, a well-chosen victim, as we say in the business. Okay, we've gotten Tom's basic shape laid out here. Now we're going to go into the details.
The crew was very tickled at getting Tom to volunteer. I don't know what kind of ulterior motives they had.
I'm not sure what they had against him. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure. Do you always start out with a pencil sketch?
I usually do, but it's not necessary. I usually like to capture the gist of the pose, and I like to kind of get the story laid out before I lay it down to ink. You see, ink is very permanent.
Yes.
And so once you capture the gist of the pose, then you can designate your mindset to just simply capturing the elements of the face that you wish to exaggerate. Isn't this fun, Tom? Aren't you just having...
I can guess what's going on in Tom's mind. What is he doing to me over there?
He's probably thinking about all the things he could be doing instead of coming to work today. Okay. Now we have exaggerated some of Tom's facial shapes, and we have focused in on some of his main characteristics, which includes but is not limited to his facial hair. How long have you had this little beard growing there, Tom?
Oh, about 3 weeks.
3 weeks? Yeah. Okay.
Just think it's going to be immortalized now.
Forever.
I think we use the word demoralized more and more often. Okay, here he is. All right, now we get to the point where, Tom, we'd like to know exactly what you like to do for fun.
Oh, play Frisbee.
Frisbee? Well, I haven't had that one for a long time. Okay. Okay, now we're going to put him in a Frisbee motion. Now, any resemblance to his real Frisbee motion and what I am doing to him now is purely coincidental. Now, let's see. Okay, we've been kind to you today, Tom. That's T-O-M, right? Mm-hmm. Now, most important of all, we autograph this, and it's very, very important that when we do autograph it, that nobody can read the writing, you see, because if you could read it, we wouldn't be a true artist, you understand? Okay, we're going to do this in black and white here for you. We're going to do a little bit of shading. This gives the cartoon character a little bit of modeling and a little bit more dimension. Isn't this fun? What do you think I've been doing to you there, Tom?
I'm not sure, exactly.
Will we still be friends after this?
I'm sure.
He says that now. Okay. All right, should we show this to you? Are you ready for this?
All set.
Okay, Tom, here it comes. Da, 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 da.
It's great.
Okay. All right, Tom, you hang on to that. That picture will be worth at least $10,000 the day after I die.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you,
very
Tom.
much.
We appreciate it. You were a good victim.
I could tell that Tom was rather pleased with the likeness that you got and the action in the figure. It's interesting, you catch the likeness with the head and then you put any kind of a figure behind it with any type of action. You could have shown him in an airplane or anything, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And usually the action is what people like. It gets the... Has anyone ever been insulted by your work?
We hope so. No,
I think we said that once before, but I mean really.
Well, it's very rare, actually, and we do water down these sketches quite a bit to make sure that the likeness is preserved with a greater emphasis of action on the little body.
If there isn't something of the likeness caught in the caricature, then it's flat.
That's right. That's right.
You have to catch something. The person looks at it and says, oh, there's an essence there that I can relate to.
Exactly.
Now, I'd like to shift to another subject now. You have Showcase. Would you tell us what that is?
Showcase is an independent artist network. Some years ago, we discovered a great need in the community. On one hand, we had a group of artists with awesome talent that couldn't find the work. And on the other hand, we had a lot of individual needs out there that required the service of an artist, and they didn't know where to look to find them. So we decided we'd bring the two together, and we created the network from that.
And so Showcase is a network of artists?
That's right.
How many artists?
Oh, we have about 300 as we now speak.
300 artists?
And they come in three divisions. There's entertainment, such as the one we just did.
You just did.
And then we have graphics. And
which is for the magazines,
right.
Political cartoons,
Political
that type
cartoons,
of thing?
anything on a two-dimensional surface, usually used for reproduction.
Newspapers, magazines.
That's right. And finally, the fine arts division, and that involves wall hangings,
oil paintings,
three-dimensional sculptures.
And so do you have any artists that are in all three categories?
Very few. You might get one or two. Most of them relate to one or possibly two.
They tend to go with the entertainment and the caricatures, or they tend to go with the cartoons, or the serious, what I would call the more serious fine arts?
The graphics and entertainment divisions are the two most active, predominantly the entertainment right now, but that's the way it is.
If I wanted to have a party and have an artist come like yourself, is that expensive?
Well, it ranges from anywhere from 75 to maybe 100 or 125 an hour, depending on what they're doing. We do these on T-shirts, caps, water bottles, anything like that.
You could have those sketches reproduced on a T-shirt for yourself and enlarged or anything.
That's right. The possibilities are endless, and people love this stuff.
And so if anyone wishes to get in touch to get more information, there will be a phone number at the end of the show.
Okay.
So that they can look at that number, and I may give it again, but that is with B. Daffodil Productions, and we can refer to you so that people will be able to locate you.
Great.
Tell us a little bit more about some of the artists that you are working with.
We have some incredible talent, Earl. There's a lot of undiscovered talent out there, and there's a lot of name talent as well. The types of people that we like to use are very, very professional, and they like working with clients on a horizontal basis. They like to go work directly with the client and work out their promotional needs. Advertising, promotions, anything like this always demands some kind of visual presentation, and from storyboarding to audio-visual productions to just simply drawing a sketch at a party. No matter what the need is, there's always somebody who can fill it.
I recall that I first met you several years ago when I wanted you to do an album jacket of a Paul Smith album, and you painted him or sketched him having about 5 hands because he moves so rapidly over the keyboard, and the piano was in flames, and it was a hot album.
That's right, that's right. Very, very hot. Hey, those are the kind of things that we like to do.
Yes, and it went over very big. In fact, there was the Columbia concert artist wanted to use that as the idea to promote his tours. They liked the idea of the caricature. They use that in some cases, and in other cases they use, of course, a photograph of the artist, but the caricature thing does catch on very, very quickly.
It absolutely does. It sells like hotcakes, and it's just amazing how good of a tool it is for selling, for marketing.
I want to come back again one more time to Showcase. Now, you said there were 300 artists in this. Do you network by computer? How is this networking done?
We'd like to format each individual so that they have their own bio. And so when somebody calls in and they need a certain artist for a certain assignment, we can call up the bio on the computer and send out samples of their work, maybe an audio tape or a videotape, or just simply paper format.
Now, you're doing things with CD-ROM at the present time, aren't you?
Yeah,
What is it you're doing?
I just worked on a new educational program for children, and involves a series of animated characters. And these characters will interact with the children to teach them character developing concepts. And
So the interactive CD is really coming in, and the art world is getting connected with this as well.
absolutely, it's just another tool, Earl, for us to get our little hands in there and have some real fun, and
Help
the
to
kids
train
benefit
people.
by it. Yeah.
Well, Terry, I thank you for being our guest today on Adventures in Life. I'm your host, Earl Beecher, and our guest is Terry Donelson. Thanks very much for being here, Terry.
Thank you, Earl.